Thank you very much for being here.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to say, Jill, you're going to check out?
I need to check out.
Okay, well, thanks for the introduction. We'll talk soon.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, great. So welcome everybody to Squarespace 7.1. We're going to be designing today a website. My name is Heather Neff. I am the CEO and lead designer at Neff Creative, a local Ashevillean design and marketing firm. We specialize in branding and logo, and then also, of course, graphic design and Squarespace websites. And so I'm going to be going over and teaching a class today. I'm going to be sharing my screen so you guys can see everything. Again, you're going to be you should have gotten a PDF. If you haven't gotten the PDF, they should be sending out a response to this email with a recording of this webinar today as well. So if you feel like you didn't get anything at the end of the webinar, we will make sure that this gets sent to you as well as the PDF that was in there if you joined late. So also there is a Q&A button down on your Zoom, and we're going to be using the Q&A in the chat today. So if you have a question, pop it into the Q&A area, and if I see it, I will have it. I'll try to answer it as they come in. Sometimes I miss it because I'm talking about what's going on, but I would love to say warm welcome to everybody on the thing today, and make sure that you guys know that I'm going to be available for questions afterwards as well. So this runs until about 5 o'clock, so we have a couple 2 hours to go through all this, and I wanted to make sure that you guys all know that I am going to be designing from scratch a Squarespace website today so that you guys can follow along. So first I'm going to start sharing my screen. I'm going to share my entire desktop because I'm going to be kind of going all over the place when it comes to different things. So first and foremost, this is the PDF that was sent out from the class that has a bunch of links in it and some great resources to get started. And there's more webinars that Squarespace actually hosts as well. I'll show you that as well. There's also a coupon for 10% off if you're starting with Squarespace. Many of their platforms, the hosting fees come with a free domain and for your G Suite or an email. And also, if you wind up working with us, we also can save you 20% off your hosting thanks for Circle members with Squarespace. This is a little bit about some of the things that we do with Neff Creative as well, and so you can kind of go through that and see what's included in our package. We also offer free 1-hour consultations on branding, on logos, on graphic design, Facebook ads, whatever you want. So feel free to sign up for one of those today. And I'm also going to share my screen so you guys can see some of the things that we're going to get started with. So first of all and foremost, this is a resource for basically the customers that need to add announcement bars and pop-ups. And some people are going to have some need for their current website. So I'm going to type that into the chat. This is a resource to how to add an announcement bar or pop-up for important information to make sure that your clients know what's going on. So if you happen to already have a Squarespace website, this is a little bit about how to add an announcement bar and pop-ups for your website to talk about what's going on. And that's going to be in the chat. These design option links is also going to be something we're going to be going into as well today. This is for 7.1 specific templates as well. And this is something we're going to be going over as well, which is going to be how to do the fonts and the colors. But this is a nice help tutorial from them and so forth. So we're actually going to be starting and looking at building a website with Squarespace today. And I want to just make sure that I have all of my links are up here. So I'm going to go and hide that one now. This one is for all the webinars that are coming up. I'm going to put this in the chat as well. They have a whole bunch of them that are coming up. Again, getting started is kind of similar to what we're going to be talking about today. Also, they have a launching your store, which might be helpful if you're moving to e-commerce, and then growing your audience and kind of getting to know Acuity or scheduling as well. So here's a link to the webinars as well in the chat. Again, chat in if you have any questions or use the Q&A. I have both of those on the screen that you might not be able to see, but I am looking at them as well. So there's also help videos that they have, a ton of videos that are out there for all types of how-tos. They have a great, I can't explain this enough, like their customer service at Squarespace is amazing. So these videos are also a great resource for you to find other tutorials, all kinds of information online. So I'm going to put that chat into there as well, so you guys have that link to go forward. So starting with the business plan and the personal plan and so forth, there's different plans. We can go over these as well. So when you start a Squarespace account, you're going to not need a credit card at all. In fact, you have something like, I think it's 14 days free trial, but if you type in and you ask customer service to extend it, they'll give you quite a long time to have a trial as you build your site. When you get to the launch thing, you do need to put in a credit card to pay for your hosting plan. And quite honestly, a lot of you might just start with a personal plan. You can upgrade at any point to the business plan. But what the business plan comes with, which is really cool, is a free year of G Suite with your email. So you have your email at your domain. So that is where I usually put most of my clients, is on the business thing, because you can also do things like the announcement bar, pop-up windows, and you can see that it comes with a bunch of other actual really cool features. It has e-commerce built in, gift cards, all kinds of things in here. So the business plan is what I usually recommend most people getting onto. If you pay annually, it's about $216 a year. If you work with my company, it's about $180 to launch your business plan for the year. So it's a very affordable option to have Squarespace host your website as well. So this is on the Squarespace pricing, and I can put that into your chat as well, so that if you guys want to go over the benefits and the differences between the different plans, here you go. So I just wanted to give out some helpful links before we get into the actual designing of the websites. I'm going to be working on reconstructing a website that looks like this. I created this for a website class previously, so I have all the elements. So we're going to be redesigning and creating a site that looks something like this today. So this is a local beekeeper, Chelsea. She's a friend of mine, and we're going to be recreating something on this 7.1 Squarespace template. So I'm going to leave that open and kind of keep it there for us to look at. And this is where you would probably want to go, squarespace.com, if you're going to be starting a new trial or a site. I'm already logged in as me, which is nice, so that I don't have to fill out all this information. But you'll see that as you start a site, you're going to be required to create an account with them, which requires you to put in an email address and so forth. You can log in and use Facebook and Twitter as well to log in to create an account. But you can also just use an email and so forth. So to get started, you just go to squarespace.com and you hit this top right button called Get Started. So the difference between 7.0 and 7.1 is the fact that 7.1 is just a single template, whereas 7.0 used to have many different templates with lots of different features, but in the back end, there was different style sheets and different attributes that you could have or didn't have built into the template itself, and they would just act very differently. So what Squarespace has done with 7.1 is they've overhauled the entire thing from scratch to be completely different. And what they've done is made a single template. So even though it starts off with having, you can see all these different types of templates, each one of these is actually a single template. It's just the difference is that they've uploaded and designed starter websites that you can start with different elements. They have different colors, different fonts. Maybe you can look around and find something that really resonates with you, so you don't have to change it as much as maybe a different template. But when you install the template, you get this particular template as what you start with as a demo site. So you can take the time to look around. It honestly doesn't really matter, because you're probably going to be removing and changing it and changing everything to be customized for your own website. But they do offer a bunch of different nice templates here to start with. You can also see that they have them by different categories. So if you're a photographer and you're looking just for a lot of, different ways of displaying your galleries, this is an example of showing you all the templates that are made for photographers. So you can choose whatever type of, business you're going to be doing. The company that we're going to be working with today is a small business. And so I could look at these, or I could, it doesn't really matter which template you choose. Again, it's really preference at this point. So, it honestly does not matter. So what I can do is choose something like this one. And you can see the preview will bring you into an actual preview mode where it'll show you around and look at it. Or you can just start with that particular template and it'll start a trial. And it'll actually add this to my account. Again, it's going to be a little different for me because I already have an account set up, but this is going to be skipping that step of just adding your email address and your name and so forth to get into this. So in this welcome thing here, it's going to ask me, what is the title of my site, which is basically, what is your company name? So the company name is Wilderkin Beekeeping. And it's going to give you a little demo on how to edit the pages. And we're going to go through that in detail. So I'm going to hit next. How to create pages and how to style the pages, which we'll definitely get into as well. And then once you get started, it's created the template page and it brings you into the back end of the website. So just just the layout of how Squarespace works is this is when you're logged into the back end of the website, you will see this gray kind of side navigation. And this is basically the back end to the website. And this is what you see on the front end of the website. And over on to the right-hand side, you're going to see this kind of export arrow here. And this actually shows you what it's going to look like live on the website. So this is kind of how to get back and forth. It's a little different than 7.0, which is on the left side. Now it's on the right side. And this is how you can see how the site's going to look. And the demo site is fully loaded, and you can and see that it's working. It's got all these different things. But you can note that the name of the title has been put in for me. And if I hit this arrow again, it'll bring back this back end of the thing. And down here is where your login is, and kind of you can get into your account settings down there. So, and once you have also, if you use an email address for your account, you can get lots and lots of accounts you can have multiple sites all under your one email address. So I personally have like 55 websites under my email because I help manage and design a lot of Squarespace websites. So that being said, what I also want to get into is just the basic navigation. So on the left-hand side here, you can see that it says pages. That's going to be your actual website pages. The design elements are going to be holding the fonts and the colors. Commerce, we're not going to get into today. E-commerce is a whole other conversation, and it could be another webinar all unto itself. E-commerce involves hooking up bank accounts and making sure you have thank you messages and what you're going to do with shipping. And it's an in-depth kind of thing as well. The marketing has things like your SEO and your announcement bars and some of the other things that you do for marketing. Scheduling is also a new feature. They bought a company called Acuity, and Acuity allows you to do booking software right on embedded into your website. So someone can book, like my site has it, so you can book an hour free consultation with me. The website analytics is going to be kind of like Google Analytics, where you can see the traffic and all kinds of data that comes in onto the site. And the settings has where your domain is and a bunch of the backend account settings as well. And the help menu is kind of actually really cool too, because now they have this knowledge base built right back in. They have the links to the videos I was showing you, the webinars that I was showing you as well. They have this whole thing we can go over to 99 designs and hire Squarespace people, and a little bit about GDPR compliancy and that kind of stuff as well. And down here below at the help menu, if you don't know what kind of version you are, if you go to the help, it will tell you either 7.0 or 7.1. So we're not going to be talking a lot about how to migrate from 7.0 to 7.1 today, because quite honestly, there's a guide that they have, but there is no way to unfortunately just export your site or convert it to 7.1. It's just such a different template. They're kind of forcing you to recreate the site if you are on a 7.0. So that's the unfortunate news, but the good news is the new template is pretty powerful, and there's some really great things that they've done to kind of ease up a lot of the individual things you have to change. They've made global styles that are all attached, and so it's a big difference in how you design your site. So first of all, we're going to see that if I click on the pages, you'll see that this is a demo site that you've just started. And you can see that these pages all have demo next to them. So that means that this is still not a site that's been, the website pages have not been enabled. You also see this not linked area. What all that really means is that it's still live on the internet. It's just not part of this main navigation up here. And as you can see, they've given you some demo pages that correspond to what's going on up here. They've also, this particular template has a folder. A folder you can actually create as well. You can drag and drop the contents that are underneath it, and that will change what's in the folder and how they are arranged just by dragging and drop them. So these little icon here means it's a web page, and this is a folder icon. You'll see lots of different variations of this as we go forward. So what we can do is either delete these with a little icon. If you delete something as well, it will go into a trash can and you can recover them. The only thing you can't delete, by the way, is a blog. If you happen to be blogging and you delete a blog, there is no backup for the blogs themselves. So as I click on this, you can see that it will automatically turn into an actual page instead of a demo page and enable it for me. And I can do this for all of them if I wanted to. Now, I know I'm going to be deleting some of these pages already because I don't need this particular layout. So what we're going to be trying to do is recreate this particular website. So I'm fairly confident we should be able to get to that as well today. So one of the first things I also like to do is change this built-in domain that comes. Now, Squarespace automatically takes a couple different words and puts in this crazy looking domain in the back end. So one of the first checklist things I like to do is go over to the settings and get into the domains area. And in here, you can see that there's get a domain, use a domain I own, and also the built-in domain. Now, when you're ready to launch, you're going to connect your domain to your Squarespace website. It's very quick and easy to do if you already have one of the hosts that they've partnered with, such as GoDaddy, as long as you're signed into your account, you can attach it and it will help launch your site very quickly. The built-in domain is always part of your account though. So this is your Squarespace backend thing. And this is what they need when they're talking to you on chat is what is this called? So I'm going to call this Wilderkin, because I've already called the other one Wilderkin Beekeeping. Let's see if that's a verb. So I can confirm and change the internal URL, and that's a little bit better and a little bit easier to share with clients and so forth. So now you can see it says wilderkinsquarespace.com, and that is now going to be something called your built-in domain. And you always have that. That's also something you can start sharing with people before the site is launched. So the permissions is also a really cool thing to do. You can invite people to help build the website and so forth. And this is where you can invite me to become a contributor on your website, and then we can get in and work around on the site itself. And there's a lot of different settings. One of the things I recommend is that you go into the site availability and you can actually password protect the site. That way, if you want to share this URL, this new Squarespace URL up here, this wilderkinsquarespace.com, this would be the link you could share in an email. And as long as someone had the password, which I can put in as password, I can hit save, and now I can share this with the client or anybody you're working on who wants to see that, and you can just send them this URL, and as long as they have this password, it's going to be something they can view as well before you go live. So I wanted to show you guys how you can do that. There's a bunch of different settings in here. The business information is obviously a good one to put in, the contact information, the contact email. If you have a physical brick and mortar store and you want to put that information in there, you can, it will find out. And also the business hours are at the bottom of that. So I'm going to skip all that for now because we have a lot to talk about today about getting this design, but I wanted to show you that. The social links are actually pretty easy to put in. And so I actually have these bookmarked as well. So I'm going to go grab the social links for Instagram and put this in. And all you really need to do is this URL that you have, and he says, show my icon. You say, yep. And then we can also put in Facebook. And as a branding person, I recommend, making sure that if you're starting a new company, make sure you go get your @ Now, this one we don't want to have, so we can remove because we don't have a Twitter for that particular one. You can also add in an email address, which is good to have a little icon for email address. So I'm going to stick the email in there real quick. And that will actually add this little icon here as well, the little email icon. So the other thing is to connect the accounts. What you need to be doing is, this is kind of more of an integration between Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. You need to be logged into your Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter accounts when you're connecting these, because what it's going to do is open up a window that says, hey, we're gonna have these talk to each other. So that's another way to connect the accounts. So you can actually do like an Instagram feed or one of those blocks that shows you, the content from your Twitter account. So there's a lot of different settings. You're gonna need to go into different things in here, but right now the other thing that is important back in here is both the billing and account where you can actually pay for the site, and of course the email and G Suite. The business plan does come with a free year of G Suite. That is pretty awesome. It's about a $70 savings. It also comes with what's called a SSL certificate, which is making your site secure. So that is also built into the business plan, which is great. It's another about $75 savings from your domain host. Also, with Squarespace business plans and I think the personal plan, they both come with a free domain. So if you haven't purchased your domain right now, you can actually get this hosting plan. It will come with a free domain, a free email address at your domain, and basically this free SSL certificate, which makes it secure. So sometimes you might see not secure up in the browser, and that means that you don't have the SSL certificate on your domain. So I'm just gonna make sure we don't have any questions, we're good. And we're not going to get into GDPR compliancy and cookies and all that kind of stuff, but if you have some questions about making your site GDPR compliant, we can also have a follow-up email or a phone call conversation about that as well. Into the design tab, I want to show you guys here. This is where the fonts, colors, site-wide animations now compared to 7.0, which are all individual. This is all now global. There's spacing for the site as well. Your buttons are back here, all these different things, including the browser icon. So this is where the favicon is uploaded. I wanted to show you what a favicon is. Right now, the default is this little cube square. What we're going to try to do is try to upload it to make it look like this with a little bee. So I've actually, let me pop over and show you. Before designing the website, I highly recommend as a branding person to finalize your colors and make sure they're ADA compliant, and that you have someone that's working with you to do a reversed out logo and a regular logo, and making sure you have the brand colors kind of set before you design the website, because it's easy to change the colors, but it is one of those things where the art direction really does carry through, and how you have a social media icon and all that kind of stuff is really important. And fonts carry over, and you can install Adobe Fonts to make sure they match your branding and that kind of stuff as well. So I've pulled up this kind of branding style guide that we made quickly for our friend that was doing this Wildrican beekeeping. We have this little bee that we have, and we have this little icon that we put together. And so when I jump back over into this, I can upload the favicon, which means basically the favorites icon. Again, it's this little icon up here in the browser. So you want to make sure when you design your logo, you have a separate icon made for social media as well. So on my desktop, I've put some images together for this, and you'll notice that I have two. One is a square, and that's because if I wanted to upload this into Facebook, it will automatically be cropped into a circle, and you need to have, all images are square or rectangle. You can't really have a circle image. But what I also made is a transparent PNG so that you don't see the background, and this is what I want to have uploaded into the system, is the transparent PNG for the, oh, it's too big. I made it just earlier today. Okay, so we're gonna have to resize it. Now, resizing images is also a whole other thing we're gonna get into as well. So what I'm gonna do is gonna show you what that means. Is I need to resize that image. And Photoshop is pretty much the only program that I recommend to resize images in. And it's because we need to control the physical size, the actual kilobytes. And how big this particular image is 500 by 500. It's not too big kilobyte wise, but it must be just too big for the system. So this is a new thing. I'm going to turn this to pixels, and I'm going to change this down to, let's say, 120 by 120. And that hopefully should be nice and tiny enough for them. Usually it's 32 by 32, but you can also go bigger. Oh, my little Zoom messages are in front of my thing. Let's try that, see if that's small enough. And there it goes. It's uploading into the system. And if I hit the save, this should shortly overwrite that. If I do kind of a hold down shift and hit refresh, you'll see that this will change the favicon in the back end. It should in a minute anyway. Yeah, there it goes. So as you can see now that the favicon has been replaced. And we'll change the logo in a minute too, so you don't get, the logo is actually not in here. It's actually built into the header. So it's a little bit different from the 7.0 sites. So in here we have a bunch of other things you can customize, such as a 404 page, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to show you where that favicon was, the browser icon, because that is something that a lot of people forget. And then you see a Squarespace website that has that standardized one. It's really good to put your branding in there as well. So one of the things we're going to go back over and start building out the pages so that we can kind of, again, we're trying to recreate what we have here, which is an about. We have beekeeping, which I believe is just a gallery of images. I'm going to show you what that looks like. So we put some images together to work with today. And then we have an appointments and a contact, and then you can see the social media showing up. Now, most of the templates now also include this button, and we're going to be editing the new site to make sure that we have kind of customize this button. But now they're building that in as kind of a call to action on all of these sites. So this is actually part of the header as well. And as you can see that we have all these different pages. And one of the things I can do is I can either edit the page and just change the name and the URL, or I can start from scratch. So I'm going to look at this page and see if I like the design, and it's got a bunch of stuff going on it. And quite honestly, it's going to take me longer to delete everything than to start with a new page. And one of the really cool things about 7.1 is how many awesome pages they have that are, let's see, it won't let me because it's the home page. You can see this little icon there, the little house. It's because that was designated as the home page. So it won't let me delete it until I tell something else to be the home. So let me create a new page. And here it will allow me to now pop up a blank page, different page layouts, I can do a blog, a portfolio, events, a folder, or a link. What I just really want right now is I can show you these page layouts so you can see all the different choices. This is brand new to 7.1. They've made so many templates for the pages and also the page sections that you'll also see. This is very similar to the page sections. So they've made all these templates that are just like ready to rock, which is really amazing for Squarespace to have done a lot of the design placeholder work for you. So as I can see, this is just a general page, and I can see, wow, I can change and look and see. This one here looks really great for my homepage. I know that I wanted to have an image. I know that I wanted to have maybe 3 columns. So I could choose this one, and that will be, you know, a new page that will come in. As it comes in, it says, this page has malformed data, cannot be edited, huh? Okay, that's a new one. That's strange. Well, let me delete that one and see if we can do that again. It looked like it came up anyway. Actually, it looked like it was working. Now, Squarespace is not always perfect, but I think it's, you know, pretty good compared to some of the other things. So that worked that time for some reason. So what I'm going to do is rename this one home. And then I can click off of it, and then I can click on this gear icon. And this is the settings for the back end of the website. So every time you hover over these have these gear icons. And if I open it up, you can see that this is the page titles, the navigation for what you would see out here on the top of the website. The slug is basically the slash, whatever the name of the page is. So these can be customized as well. So if you wanted to call this, you know, welcome, you could do that as well. You can also enable the page, which means that Google can't see it or index it. You can password protect everything, your website or individual pages. You can duplicate a page, which is nice to know in the back end, or you can set it as the home page. So I'm going to set this as the home page. And now this will let me to delete the other page. And before I get out of the settings, I also want to show you that we have the SEO, and we have a social image, and some advanced settings. So the social image is an image that you can create that will actually be if you share the link for your domain into like a Facebook chat, this is the image that will be the main image before like a text link. And so you can customize every single share image in the back end of your site, or you can just upload one into the back end, and it will be what is chosen for the website when you share the link. So this is something that I like to customize as well. So it looks really, really good. Otherwise, it kind of usually takes your logo. And the problem with your logo files, a lot of times it's not formatted into a rectangle. So it crops it and makes it look a little funny. So you really want to have this long rectangle kind of Facebook sized share image. And you want to customize this as well with your designer to make sure that you have something that looks really good when you paste in the URLs into you know, just sharing the link to somebody on Facebook or Instagram. So this is how that would come out. It's mostly Facebook, to be quite honest, because I don't think you can do things like sharing links in Instagram. For the SEO, one of the things that happens, a lot of people don't know what SEO is. Let me back up. It's search engine optimization. Squarespace is wonderful for you know, ranking and search engine optimization if you know what you're doing, which is doing some keyword research. Our Squarespace package includes some, you know, SEO keyword research to make sure you know that how people are searching for your company. It's a really kind of important thing. And you can see that this is going to allow you to edit the basic SEO settings for the main website. And it's going to bring me into the back end of the marketing SEO area. And there's some links here that are fantastic to help you do some stuff. And as you can see, it's kind of pulling in here some information, the SEO title format, and some of the site descriptions. So I've actually gone ahead and written, first of all, I've done some keyword research. This kind of is a basic what you get from Google when you go do Google keyword research. It's really important to do this as you're designing your site, is to make sure you know how people are actually searching. So doing some research is imperative to know how to write your H1, H2, and H3 tags, which we'll get into your header tags. And also just the content of your website should really be relevant to how people actually search. And so your site will do better in the search engines. And all the backend SEO metadata that you write, the descriptions for each of the pages should be based on these keywords as well. So this is something that I highly recommend, just knowing that this exists, that you need to be doing some keyword research, and then seeing how many people per month will look for different things, and then what makes sense for your site. So we know this particular client is going to be, you know, perhaps selling or helping starting a beehive, right? So there's some things that we want to look at, you know, and people definitely search for it. And this is on this side is kind of what Google tells you for the bidding process of how much to pay for a click in their Google AdWords. Google AdWords are great as well to help get your site some immediate traffic by paying for pay-per-clicks. But this research is really valuable to know how many people are actually looking for specific things, and then you can go through and use these keywords in your website as needed. So I've gone ahead and written an SEO description for the back end of the website. And this is going to use some of those keywords. And also I highly recommend using a, you know, if you're in a town or you're doing a local brick and mortar, or you're actually servicing a specific area, make sure you know the major city around you that people are searching, and do that kind of demographic research and knowing who your clients are. If you're not doing a national everyone thing, you really should be focusing on your local community and putting in the town that you are servicing or doing work with or whatever. So this is an important thing to do, is also keep in mind that you want to SEO for your location. Insider tip 2, that Google knows where you're sitting on your computer, and so your IP address will actually automatically tell them where you're located as well, but it does help to make sure that you put the town or the city that you're working with in the back end. So I'm going to hit save, but that's how you do a site-wide SEO description. Now each of the pages can also have an individual SEO, which I highly recommend, so that each page has its own description in Google. So I'm going to get out of marketing. It popped me over to marketing. I'm going to go back into the pages, and you can see we have our different pages here. This should be our home page now. As I hover over it, you can see that little house icon just above my arrow. So what I'm going to do is now I can start deleting the other pages because I just don't need them. We do need an about page, so I'm going to take a look at this real quick. See if I like this template. That's fine. I can leave it. I can use it. Our services. Yeah, I don't really need that one. Definitely don't need this projects folder, so I'm going to delete all that. And again, once you start deleting things, this trash can shows up. So don't be too afraid to try to delete things, because if you want to, you can actually just, you know, restore it if you happen to delete something by accident. Also, this not linked, as it says, these are public pages. They're just not part of the main navigation. A lot of times, one of the things that I do is I actually put the navigation for the home page underneath here. Why? It just frees up the navigation so you don't have the home up here, because a lot of people know to click on the logo, and to return to the home page is to, you know, you can click on the logo. But one of the other things that happens is that, being a user experience designer, I do know that most people, when they come into your homepage, they navigate away from it, but they don't come back. So they're not looking for your homepage up in the navigation very often. So that's something that we can do, is to also hide the homepage, to free up so that you can have a bunch of navigation here where it doesn't actually have to say home. But it means it's still live, it's still active. It's just under the not linked, which means it's just not part of your main navigation. So what we can also do is work on this navigation. And also we have this contact demo, so I'm going to hit OK. And they've hidden the contact down here because it's built into the header as part of the template. So what I'm going to do is work on this homepage first. And I'm going to hit the edit button up here, and this will open up the page. And as you can see, the site header, it's now, instead of 7.1, which is kind of its own backend style sheets, 7.1 has this new edit site header functionality, which is actually quite cool. It affects this long, narrow arrow, the area up here, the site header. And as you can see there's this header layout. And you can start choosing the way that you would like the little button and the navigation links in your logo, and which format you might like to have them. Now it defaults to this kind of standardized one where the logo's on the left, navigation, and then this call to action stuff here. But you can click around and see if you like different things. Maybe we like them centered today. So you can see this now has changed the navigation to the center just because of this format that you can see that I've chosen. And then also they have the logos now in this area here for the site header. So you can see site title and logo if I type on that. Now I can also put in for the search engine in the back end, this Wilderton beekeeping. And I can upload a logo. So I'm gonna upload the regular logo. Again, you wanna make sure your logo is done properly for, as you can see, it comes in, but you want to make sure your branding's done first and that you have all your colors and your fonts and everything. And as you can see, when it uploads here, it comes in pretty small. Right now it's only 50 pixels wide. So I can drag this and make it bigger. So I can start looking at it and say, okay, that looks a little bit better. This looks better. You can also see the mobile height, which is going to be the mobile website as well. So I can make that a little bit bigger. If I hit back, you can also see in here there's elements. So this is this button over here, the contact us, and it goes to the contact page, which is defaulted by the template, which is fine for us right now. Actually, I want to see what I did before. Yeah, it's just left it as a contact. You could change this to say book now. It could be learn more. It could be some type of whatever your business needs for the call to action. This is where you would change that. What it says here is what it says on the button and where it links. And if you click on this, it will bring up different ways to also say if you want to put a phone number in, it will add a tap link to that and also an email. Or you could have, if you click on the page, it will start, you look for, right now we have one page, so it's kind of like, oh, there's not that many pages. You can X this out and say, look, where else would I like to link that to? Right now I'm going to choose contact. It's going to stay in there. You can also open in a new window, which means new tab, but for the most part, the better user experience is to not click that off unless it's really important that they go somewhere else if they're leaving the site. And also you can turn on the social links. So since I've already put those social links in the back end of the settings, automatically those show up and there they are. They have the email us, Facebook and Instagram. You can play around with the icon size just by drag and drop, which is pretty cool. And you can also turn on a shopping cart. If you have an e-commerce site, this is where you can put the e-commerce site. So since this is not an e-commerce site, I'm going to turn that off and hit back. And then you can also see there's this colors. And right now, Squarespace has done something very different. They've allowed us to have 10 different themes, and each template that you start off with the trial is going to have the default colors. And in this, you can see, you can start changing and playing around with the colors, and that will automatically apply that theme to that section as well. So it's quite dramatic on how it can change things across the board. So I'm going to leave it on the default white minimal for now, and I'm going to be changing this in a little bit. That's one way you can change the colors, and also the styles. So you can see here, we can play around with padding. I might want to reduce that a little bit so we don't have as much vertical padding. The element spacing, you can see what it does is it pushes that away from the button itself, and the link spacing, how far away from each things are. Now the fixed position, and if you turn that on, what that means is this header will always stay as you scroll. So I like to turn that on, and I also like to have it called scroll back. So as you go up again, it starts coming up and shows you this navigation header, which is, it's good to keep. I think it's a really nice thing to always have as you're scrolling around the website, to have the navigation so people always have it. So those are some of the choices in the header. You can also do all kinds of padding and get into this, but this is the basics for this one block at the top called the header, and that is where you control all those elements, is in this one section here. So it's totally different from 7.1, 7.0. So as long as I go up here and I do done and I hit save, it will save all my changes. And one of the cool things you can also see is that there's this mobile icon here, and this will give you a preview of what the mobile website's going to look like. So you just have to tap on that and it'll come back. I'm going to say it looks great. It's fine, thank you. So that's interesting. They do have this new user experience feedback that they're putting into it. I've not seen that one before. That's very cute. So one of the things I also want to get into is building out the rest of the pages. So many of you are going to be like, okay, so let's add some more content to this. So this little plus button over here is going to allow us to add more additional pages to the website. Again, you can go with a blank page. You can do these page layouts, which are all these templates that already exist. Blogs are different from a regular page. They are made to be a blog, which allows to have lots of blog entries in kind of an organized way. So that's a totally different functionality than just a regular web page. A store is going to be what it is. It's going to be selling products and allow you to add products. Portfolio pages is basically a gallery page. It's made specifically for showing off your portfolios. Events is very similar to a blog. It's made so you can have a date and kind of a calendar format. Folders, this is where you add a folder. If I wanted to create a drop down, I could just make a folder and name this, and I could call this services, for example. To add items into this, all you have to do is drag your pages into that, and it becomes now a folder where that folder now sits, that the information is now in there. And you can also just drag it back out. I don't remember if I need a services folder. I don't think I do. So I'm going to go back to my account and say, I don't really need this folder. I just want to show you, make sure you know how to do a folder. And I'm going to do a blank page. And I'm going to call this gallery. And so you can see this is an empty page. And if I hit the edit button and I hover over it, you can see that it's already asking me, would you like to add some page content? So I say, sure. And now it brings up something very similar to that other template pages, which is sections that you can add into a page. Now, sections are kind of like the index pages from 7.0, where there is multiple pages sitting inside, and you could drag those sections up and down. Well, now in 7.1, they have the same functionality of adding these sections, and you can delete them, and you can move them up and down. It's very easy with an arrow up and down to move these sections within the page. So you're kind of building a page, kind of like an index page in 7.0, but it is now its own 7.1 template pages, which are all kind of like index pages. They're all just sections that you can build out. So if I just wanted to have a gallery, I can see that they have a lot of different choices for imagery. So it's kind of cool. You can also see there's all kinds of stuff too. If you just want quotes, newsletters. This gets built into MailChimp. I'm also a MailChimp instructor and design MailChimp and ActiveCampaign newsletters. So if anyone else needs help or questions on that, integrating with MailChimp is another thing you can do with Squarespace. There's all kinds of different page sections, as it were, and these are all the different ones you can have. So I highly recommend just clicking around and see what they are. Like take your time to learn what kind of things you can have. Right now, what I'm looking for is the gallery. So I'm going to go up and get a gallery page. And I like, let's say this one here. So I'm going to choose it. And it's going to give me a gallery. This is called a section, page section. And as you can see, it's got this new line with a plus. And so I could add another section right away. I can edit this thing. I can edit the photography that's in the gallery. So if I hit this button here, it's going to pop up all of the photography that's kind of the template stuff. And I know that I have a bunch of images that I want to add. So what I can do is start basically I'm holding down my select shift button, and I'm going to select all of them, and I'm going to delete all of them. And there's a couple different ways you can add images to Squarespace. One is this plus button up here, which is to upload images. You can also do the search images. So I have some images that I've made already that I want to upload. So I'm going to upload a few of these. And I can do them all at the same time, which is really, really cool, just like that. Or you can actually do a drag and drop into this image editor as well. So as you can see there, it's pretty fast. I've already optimized these images to be 1500 pixels wide. That's about the base that you want all your images to be. And I can't emphasize this enough, that images need to be renamed and optimized and made for the search engines. So the process for that is kind of a really important thing, because since I have your attention today, I can't emphasize this enough, that if you upload a 20 meg file into Squarespace, it will allow you to, but your website will not load fast, and therefore you'll lose all your visitors very quickly. So one of the things I did is I optimized all these images, and I'm going to walk you guys through how to do that as well. One of the things you also want to do with the image galleries is add a description. This is going to be the alt tag for these images, which is really important for your ADA compliancy, which is Americans with Disability Act compliant. And what you want to do is describe this image for like someone who has a visual impairment or is blind. So the best way to do this is to actually see what's going on in these pictures. And if you add in the description, it would be, you know, bumblebee on flower. And that would be, and you can also hyperlink, of course, the images out to go somewhere to a page or to something else or a file, wherever you'd like to do. But for right now, I just want to show you that you need to make sure that each of your images has a description. So to show you how to actually optimize the image, this is a little bit of a bonus thing. It's not really Squarespace designing, but it is really crucial as part of the Squarespace kind of website design kind of how-tos is to optimize these images. One of the other things I want to show you too before I get into this is how to add just an image. I'm going to add just a regular image into the thing, and it adds an image block, and I can then edit this banner. And I can delete it. But what you'll see is I can either edit this image, make a full bleed, which is really cool. Now it's full bleed. I can delete it. And when I delete that, it gives me this option. You'll see this a lot throughout the website. It will say upload an image. So you just click on it and it'll navigate you somewhere on your computer to add an image to the website. Or you can hit this really cool new search images. Now this is built in to Squarespace. They have a partnership with Unsplash Images, and they have thousands of free high-res images that are absolutely beautiful to use right free. And so this kind of search for an image is there. So one of the things you can do right off the bat is if I wanted to look for some of these images, which I've been using are all Unsplash, you can do something as simple as looking up, you know, something that would make sense for a beekeeper's website. I type in bee, and they'll come up with all kinds of free images to use in your website. Now, this is very tempting to use, right? This is kind of a great mock-up. So when I'm working with clients, I say, how about this image? I just throw it into the website. And then what I have to do later is actually go over to Unsplash, find that image and download it, resize it, rename it, and re-upload it, because you want to be able to control the naming of the image and the file size of the image. So even though this is built into Squarespace, this is something that I want to say that it's really, really cool to use, but it also has a caveat that if you do this, don't forget to actually go get it. So the next step is actually to go find the images on Unsplash itself, unsplash.com, and to go and download the images and reopen them into Photoshop. So I have one of these already opened, so you can see the difference between the file sizes. So I have this image open that I downloaded from Unsplash. And what you will see is when I go into Photoshop and I look at the Photoshop size, that this is, you know, pretty wide. It's almost 4,000 pixels wide, and it's 72. So it's actually kind of on the low res. If I look at some of the other ones that I've opened, we can look at the image sizes on this. It's even bigger. But some of these Unsplash images that you can download, I have a whole folder called Unsplash here on my desktop, which is trying to show you the kilobytes. So if you get something like 2.4 megabytes, this image is quite large. This is actually high res. So a lot of the images from Unsplash are well over a megabyte, and they can be quite large physically. So they're going to be, you know, high resolution and wonderful. But if you pop that straight into your website, you're actually adding that into Squarespace. Now, Squarespace does say they optimize your images and create 7 different versions of it. But the problem is these names are also an issue. So each of the photographers' names that are built into Unsplash do have the issue of not being a really great description of what the image is. And what you really want to be doing is finding something that works for your website, but you want to rename it. So this particular image I want to use on my homepage. I think it's really great. One of the things I can do to save some kilobytes is to physically reduce the image so it's a little bit smaller, so I'm not actually using that information on the internet. And when I resize this image, this is actually really quite crucial, is that I want to make sure that the images are 1500 pixels wide. And that's kind of a good standard for all of your images in the website. If it's going to be embedded in the page and not a banner, you can get away with smaller sizes, like 1,000 pixels wide or so. And then you can resize it within Squarespace. But most of the time, 1,000 to 1,500 is where you want to have your images in pixels. You also want to make sure the resolution is 72, which is web ready. And that means that it's actually a lower resolution. Now, most things going to print are going to be 300 dpi. So if you see 300 or 350 in there, that's a high-res image and it's not meant for the web. So you can reduce the image's resolution, you can resize the image, and then you can hit OK. So I'm going to do just default kind of generic web save as, because this is just legacy stuff. And you can see that the PNG that it's defaulting to is actually quite large. It's saving it at 3 megabytes. That's not what I want. So you can see the size, it's 100%. If I change this to JPEG, automatically it drops 2 megabytes down to 70K. And I can see the quality on this image. And this is something that your graphic designer, someone who owns Photoshop, who knows Photoshop, has to do for you, because this is like a crucial thing for making your site load fast. And the #1 experience that people have coming to your site is usually on the mobile site. They're loading up your website on the mobile phone and they're waiting around for it to load. And how fast that loads is the first interaction they have with your website. So if you don't do this step, this is an important one, is also when I hit save, I can rename this image. And the proper way to be naming these images is going to be taking some of those wonderful keywords we found and also telling it for someone who has impaired vision what is in this JPEG. So I know this is a bumblebee, and I know she's doing beekeeping. And so one of the things I could do is, beekeeping bumblebee. Something to that effect, or bumble, actually, quite honestly, it'd probably be bumblebee flying or something to that effect. So that a blind person knows that it's a flying bumblebee. Should actually call it flying bumblebee. You also do not want any spaces in your images. You want to use these either an underscore or a hyphen in your image names as well. So I'm going to make sure I save this to the right folder. It's in my Wilderkin, and here's my new image that I'm going to be using on the home page. But this is a really crucial step for everything, so that everybody knows that this is not something you should skip over. You've got to take care of your image sizes. This is absolutely imperative for making sure your site loads fast. So again, to do that, you can throw in these magical images into the back end. You say, great, this looks great. You say, add it to the site, and bam, you have this wonderful image. Thank you, Squarespace. But it is a little bit tricky because they haven't renamed it. They haven't resized it. It does look great. You can get away with it. Sometimes I know people are going to argue that Squarespace does a pretty good job optimizing their images as they add it to the site. But I just want you to know that I prefer to make sure that you handle the optimization of your images as well. One of the things that happens when I added this unsplash image is that you can see it shows up and there's this little circle. This is called the focal point, and if you drag it around, it will change where the image is actually being focused on. And so that might help you as well as you upload. And also the height will also affect these banners. So if you play around with cropping it, it will change how it looks on the back end. One of the big differences between 7.0 and 7.1 is also the parallax scroll, which means that the text on top would stay where the image rolls over it. That is not a feature in the new 7.1, but if you have someone like myself that can do custom CSS, we can actually install and get the parallax scroll working in the new templates. So if anyone has any questions about the differences between the two and what's missing, some of that thing, most everything is in the new site except for parallax scroll. So if that's something you really liked in the 7.0, you just need some custom CSS to overwrite that and put that in the back, which is a little bit more advanced, but it is possible. So I'm going to actually show you that if I hit delete, I can also go and do, let me show you this. So I got all these Zoom things in front of me. I can just drag the image that I've created. Where is it? Called it Flying Bumblebee. So I'm going to drag that over here and show you that you can just drag as well. You don't have to find it. You can just drag and drop. And you can also drag like a whole bunch of images at once into a gallery, as similar to this. And here's the image that I created for the back end, which looks pretty good. So I'm going to leave the focal point right where it is. It looks great. The other thing you can do, which is kind of cool, is this video tab. So when you're adding an image into the background or this background image area, you can also hit video. One of the things I've saved out is a link for a video, so we can show you what that looks like. So if you just type in the video URL, it's going to go get this loop that I happen to find on bees on the internet, on YouTube. It's a free background repeating image kind of thing. And I could add a video to the website, which is kind of cool. So you can toggle it off. Do note that if you have a video, you should always have an image backdrop, because a lot of times the videos will not load on Android or iPhone's mobile sites. And so if you have a video in the back end of your website, you definitely want to have this backup image so it has a default instead. So you can choose which one you want to have displayed, and then you can play around with it as well. Inset just means it gets a little bit further in. Full bleed means it goes all the way out to the edge of the browser, which is kind of cool. You can also check around here and say that if you want to change the settings and the themes, this is where you can control the colors as well for each of the sections. Now, the format for each of these sections is also the section height to make it short and medium and then large. You can also customize this by playing around with it to see how big that image happens to get. And then also the content width, which means the guts of the stuff. How wide do you want the content to be? So if right now there's no content in there. So as I touch this, it's not going to show you anything because there's no words to show you. I'm going to just leave it on medium, which is kind of the default. You can also see if you want the content to be aligned in the middle, the bottom, and so forth. And you can customize the content width as well. So that's kind of like the way the sections work. And we'll put some content in there so you can see that. But I'm going to click off that and hit save. This is an important step. Also, if you screw something up, just hit the discard changes and it will revert back to how it was before you started doing that. So I just want to make sure that, is there any questions at this time? If anyone has a quick question about adding these images or Unsplash. Okay, so just again, use the Q&A if you have a question. And we will keep working on fonts and colors and content. So right now I have my little gallery page. And you can see I've put in the pictures that I had previously optimized and so forth. And I showed you how to name one. Again, you would want to go back and put image names on all of these so that everything has an alt tag. I'm a big fan of ADA compliancy, which is Americans with Disability Act compliant. So the imagery and the logo and your color should all be ADA compliant. So what does that mean? It means making sure you check your colors. So in my style guide that we created, this is done without being checked. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I like this blue, is it dark enough to put in as text? So I'm going to take the hex color, which is the 6-digit number that makes a web color for RGB format. Again, graphics are very technical and confusing. So if you want to learn more about image files and graphics, just ask a question. But right now, the hex color is what we need to do as if I'm going to check it on to see if it's compliant. There's something called the Web Aim accessibility tool, and there's this contrast checker. And if I plop in this hex number, which you guys may or may not have ever heard of before, this hex number is this 6 different colors. It brings up the blue for my branding, and it will tell me right away that I cannot use this as text. It's too light, it fails. And so that means there's not enough contrast for people with visual impairment. So that means it's not ADA compliant. And as I scroll down though, it says, well, if you do it bold and you make it big for large text, it will pass. It will become ADA compliant because it's bold enough. And it passes for like boxes and different graphical elements. So it's okay for large text. So I wanted to check that and make sure it's okay, but I can't use it just for my normal body copy across the website. So that's one way to check. You can also say, I can take that same color and drag it down, make it just a little bit darker, and all of a sudden it passes for the text. So I can grab this color and I can put that into the website as an ADA compliant color. So that's a nice thing to do that as well. I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to go back into my website and pop over to the design tab and into the colors. And now this is where they have this brand new palette. They have this 3-color based palette, which you can start editing and customizing. And then underneath that from that color scheme, those 3 colors, they create 10 automatic themes that are built off this color palette. So if I hit the edit button, you can see that this is the default that this particular template was on, and you can start popping around and checking out different color schemes, and it'll automatically start changing the website as you kind of like check things out. And you can see this will start changing the buttons and that kind of stuff. The default is this, minimalist white, so you don't see a huge change in the background. What I'm going to do is go up here and hit the designer palette. So once I hit this thing, it comes in, I can upload an image, which is kind of cool. So I know I have an image that I could try to get some colors from. Let's find one that makes sense. I like this lavender bee. So when I upload this color, it can grab colors straight from it. It'll give me some palette stuff, which is kind of neat. As you can see, it's grabbed a couple different colors, which is really, really pretty, and it's created its custom palette, and I could say that looks great. But what I also want to do is customize and actually do custom colors. So this in here is defaulted to the new Squarespace. They use hue, saturation, and lightness instead of the hex colors, but it does take classic hex. So if I put in the pound with the numbers, there's my blue that I put in, and I can put that as part of my color palette. So I can keep editing this custom palette, and I know that I have some colors that I want to put in for my branding. So let's choose this particular light gold, because I know I like that as the background color. I'm just going to copy and paste it. And again, you can customize this to whatever particular branding you have that would work. And I want to make sure that I have all the colors that work for my website as I'm designing this to be for this particular client's color schemes. And I want them all to look good. So I can change these and edit them as I need to. So it also has a default black and white, by the way. So as I'm doing this, I want to make sure that this I want to change. And I got to put that little pound symbol to make it happen. So there's my palette. And also you'll see right away, I'm going to hit save, is that it's now taking my color schemes and it's taking the black and white, but it's also taking the colors I put in and put in these themes. And these themes can then be applied to each of the sections. So you can also customize these even further. So each of these themes can then be designed even more. As you can see, this white minimal is what's decided over here. You can see that this got black minimal attached to it. And throughout the website, you'll see some changes. So this is the light bold at the bottom, for example. So if you wanted to change even more of the colors in here, you can go in and start editing every single thing within the website to customize it. So they've really done a really cool job of making allowed to have these 10 different themes to allow people to customize everything. So I know that, let's say the light minimum, which is not even being shown here. Let's go back to do this drop down here. Light, I can see this light bold is here. So if I wanted to change things in the light bold theme, I can just click on it. I can see that these fonts are embedded, which we can switch in a minute, but the colors is what I'm looking at here. And if I wanted to change any of these colors down in here, this is where I can start customizing the headers, H1, H2, H3, H4, and also the paragraph tags, which are going to be the body tags as much they are. And this is a bit different from the last Squarespace sites where they had one giant style sheet in the back with everything. Now they've broken these themes up, and again, you can attach the themes to these sections as you move forward. So once you customize these, it's really easy to change out the look and feel of your website really easy and really quickly and really fast. So we can also tweak those later, but I wanted to show you that it defaults to these 10, and that's based on those 3 colors that you've chosen, right? So again, you can customize even more. You can take the black and white out. You can turn them into different colors. So you have 5 total colors to base all your themes on. But each section is then, of course, very customizable as well. Now, one of the things I want to do is show you how to change the theme colors over here. So now we've seen some of these things. If I get into the site header and I get into colors, you can see that these are the themes that we're looking at. We've changed them, and I can change that header into a different color. And one of the things I might want to do is, I like the blue, right? So it automatically knows, it's defaulted to some of this to reverse them out because it knows it's got a dark color. So the default settings are already made for you to have the reversed out. So I'm going to say, well, now I need a custom different logo because this this one was made for a light background. You should always have a reversed out logo. So I'm going to go back up to my logo area, and I'm going to delete the one I had. And now I'm going to upload the reversed logo that I've created already. So this is a lighter color one that will be on top of a dark background. And this is how you start customizing your site, is to make sure that your branding colors you're put in, the logo's put in, and you start seeing that it's starting to looking like the site that we had built before. So I like the size of that right now. That looks pretty good to me. And then I just basically go up to the done and hit save. And that's going to be a global change across the top for all the headers on every of the pages. So this is going to be a global change throughout the thing. Now, this is the about page that we're on now. So if I wanted to start editing and customizing this, I can hit the edit button. One of the first things I know I want to do is change the background color. So each of these sections, again, you can tell there's only one section right now, so you can't go up and down, but as soon as there's more than one section, you can switch them and move them around. The other thing is if you hit this edit button for any of the sections, it will bring up the same type of formatting as any of the other sections, which has smaller section height, which reduces the padding. Again, you can customize this medium, large, or custom, and that is basically how much padding do you want between the sections. So I like to keep it somewhat small. Most of these are built in with a pretty good padding between the sections, and sometimes you got to customize that so it's not too much space between the two. Again, the content can be squished in all the way up, medium, large, or custom. I like the medium, so there's a little bit more padding on the website itself. And again, you can align the content to be top, middle, or bottom. Usually the standard in the middle is fine. These are usually in the middle, but again, you can change it. You can also upload an image to the background of this section if you wanted to. I don't usually recommend that if you're going to have text, not just plop image in the background, because it's really, really hard to read, and that makes it not compliant for ADA compliance. So you want to make sure that everything's really legible and readable. And sometimes background images will not only add a load time issue, but they will also add too much going on, so it's hard to read. For the colors, again, I can easily change and see how that will look. And I can, try different sections. And this is why it's really nice to see what these themes look like now. And then we can go back and start changing them. Obviously, this is too light. That would not be compliant. If you have not enough contrast, again, it's not compliant. So we would have to go back and tweak some of these. But I want to show you that this is how easy it is to change the look and feel as long as you've customized these themes throughout the whole thing. It's really quite quick to change that. So I like this light and minimal. I think that looks really nice. So I'm going to just click off that and hit save. And then I'm going to start customizing the actual text in here. So Squarespace is built on drag and drop blocks, and being able to use some of these templates, they already put a lot of these elements in. They have text blocks, they have image blocks, but you're more than welcome to delete them all and start over and get used to using the content blocks as they come in. So this is just the page that was part of the template, the default template. I can click in here and I can say about Wilderkin. And all you're kind of doing as soon as you click in is you see this this bark shows up, and it's kind of like Word, where you have the ability to bold something, you can center it, you can left line it, you can change its headings. So heading 1, heading 2, and you can also put bullet list in, number lines, and some of these other things. This is for when you're copying and pasting in text. So one of the things that happens when you go over to, like, say, Google Docs, and you have some text you want to put in, and I was going to take this Wilderkin beekeeping information, and I hit copy, and then I hit paste. One of the things that Word especially does is that it has a lot of formatting, and all the text will look funny because all that code is actually being copied as you hit copy. So if I hit copy and paste and I kind of replace this text, it's going to look a little bit funny, or it comes in kind of weird. One of the things I can do is just hit this button that says paste as plain text, and this will remove all of the Google Doc information or Word doc information and paste it in as plain text. Now this just happens to still have some spacing in there, and all we need to do is kind of click in there and remove some of the spacing. But that's one thing. If something looks funny and doesn't look right, it's probably because you got some formatting that came in. And actually this starts to do some Lorem Ipsum from my other document. And we have a picture down here. This is a spacer. Spacers can be moved up and down to create space or padding. We can also get rid of that. And this is an image that obviously we don't need, so I'm going to delete it. And one of the things that a lot of people don't teach is that you need to follow compliancy with your headers. So the H1 tag should come first, followed by the H2 tag, followed by the H3 tag, which is your headers in that order, because when someone is surfing the internet who is visually impaired, they're going to skip those headers down for the most important to the next. And visually, you want the H1 to be the largest on the page, and it gets smaller as it goes down. So all of the 7.1 templates are built in to have the same font for everything, and they are built to have H1 to H4 in descending order and size as well. What that just basically means is that the H1 is the most important thing on the page. This is where the best part to put keywords, and also to know that you should always follow it by having an H1 and then H2 and then H3 in that order through as you design your site. So this is kind of like a total nerd thing, but it's actually quite important for the ADA compliancies to make sure that you're designing in that order. So you can see there's also some Lorem Ipsum that's got stuck in here, which is just Greek text. So there we have our text and we have our blocks, but I also want to add an image. And so one of the things that we're going to teach you about today is if I click off this, you can see that Squarespace knows that we have these blocks that we can pick up and move, which is if you see the name, you can pick it up and you can start moving around. And you can see that the indicator is going to ask you, where would you like to plop this thing? Where would you like it to go? And you can see where it's going to go by just kind of the preview of this thing. And so one of the things I might like to do is put the text up there like that, and all of a sudden it changes the format. And as you can see, what is this little, it's called it, I believe it's called it insert point. If you hover over, these insert points start asking you, what would you like to put into the web page? So it's just a little bit different than a section. This is actually content that you're putting in as content blocks. Now, a lot of you are going to recognize this from 7.0, that we still have the same exact drag and drop content blocks. There are lots of tutorials on Squarespace on how to use each one of these. We don't have time today to do a full in-depth of how to use all the blocks and what they mean, but as you can see, there's a lot of them. There's a ton of them. So I just recommend exploring all the ones you can put in. You can put social links in. You can put in Instagram feeds that will display 8, 5, 10, whatever Instagram images you'd like to have, which is nice fresh content on your website. You can put code blocks in to do all kinds of special stuff. You can have a map, your newsletter block. Most of the time you're going to be using some of these standard stuff, which is an image or a text block. And so I'm going to add an image, and by doing that, it just adds an image block. And again, it's going to prompt me to upload an image, or I can do, again, a search for an image. One of the things that's really cool is that if you search for an image, you can also go to this imported tab. So this is default by Unsplash, but if you go to this imported, it will show you the images that you've already uploaded into the system. So that's a kind of cool little feature that they have, is to make sure that if you already uploaded an image, you don't have to do it twice. So what I'm going to do is going to go find the image that we have of Chelsea, and I'm going to upload it. And this, if you see this take a long time, that's going to be a huge red flag that your image is too big. Now, I've taken the time to name the image and optimize the image and make sure this image is good. The design of the images can also be done in many different ways. So here you can see that there's 6 different ways of making the image look, which are, you can have text on top of it, you can have text next to it, you can play around with all these, the text options to be different formats and so forth. The inline is the default. That means that there's no text on top of it, and it has a caption underneath. And this is where you would put the alt tag for, again, ADA compliancy, to make sure that we have some type of description. Let me make sure I spell her name right. I am one of the worst spellers on the person's face of the planet, Chelsea Blakey. And then we can also put a little SEO in here. So it'd be, head beekeeper. And one of the things that is a nice little function of all this in the design is that if you don't want to show this SEO kind of alt tag, you can actually hide it by hitting the do not display caption. And that will leave it in for Google to have the alt tag showing, telling people what this is if they can't see the image. but it also can be hidden so you don't have to see it, but it also is there for Google. So that's a nice little thing. That's what I do for most of my images, is that you put it on the alt tag, but then you hide the alt tag or the caption. If you want the caption to display, just leave it as displayed. You can also do it as on hover, or below on hover. There's a bunch of different, if you hover over it, it will show the caption as well. There's also this animations tab. I'm going to show you what these also look like. So you can put text on top of these next to each other, and you can do these other formats. Again, I usually leave with the inline. Now, don't worry about that. It will look good. It's just kind of having a minute when it does it. And also, you can add image animations. You can do global animations now in 7.1, which is a kind of all site-wide, or you can do it individually. So this image, I'd like to have it maybe fade in, or I can maybe make it reveal, which is kind of nice. And I can hit apply. Now, there's a bunch of different animations. Obviously, you can have it do a bunch of different things, or just no animation, or the site default is going to be the global animation across the site, which is a section I'll show you in a minute. So I'm going to hit reveal, and then I'm going to hit save. And what happens is, you can see it's kind of reformatted itself. So don't get too hung up on the preview of that, because sometimes it's just having a hard time knowing exactly what it's going to look like. So here we have the image and we have the text, but I really want to put the image to the side of that. So again, I'm going to have to hit edit, and then I can start playing with these blocks, and I can start moving them around. And one of the things I can do is I can pick up the image and start basically scrolling down, and I can kind of figure out, where do I want this image? I'm going to put it over here, and that automatically starts playing with it. You can also grab the side of an image and make it smaller. You can make it bigger, and that is a great way to play around with the design of the page. And I can start looking at this and saying how this formats, and I can say, okay, I really like this. To add a text link, for example, if I wanted to add some type of link to contact her, I can put in contact me, just type it in, and you select the text, and you can come up here, and as soon as you're in this text mode, this thing does pop up, and you can hit this little icon here, which is the link, and it opens up this dialog where you can put in this URL, or if you click on this, it will open up all kinds of choices for you, including an outside web address like www.whereveryowantogo.com. An internal page is basically, you're looking for the pages that you want to link to. I want to link to the contact us page, so I just select it. You can also, again, stick in an email, and this will make an email pop up from your phone if you tap on it, or if you click on it. Also, the same thing will be a telelink. If you have a phone number, you can add that, and I'll show that when we do the contact us page. The other thing in here is a file, so you can upload a PDF or some type of thing that they can download that can be opened in a new window. So that's how you add a hyperlink to your thing. So as you do this, the one last thing you got to do is hit this apply button, because now I've chosen to go to the contact page. I got to hit apply, otherwise it doesn't take it. So that's a cool thing, and then automatically it will turn this into a hyperlink. And I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So if I do a preview, we have our page. Scroll down. If I hit the contact page, it's going to go over to the contact page. So that's how you had internal hyperlinks. You can hyperlink the image. You can hyperlink pretty much anything within the site to do wherever you want to go. And this is starting to look pretty good. I'm not wild about the font, so I want to make sure that we get this in today, as we only have 40 minutes left. So if anyone has questions on the content blocks and asking, this is a good time to ask if you have any specific questions about any of the content blocks and how to use them and work with them. But they are just kind of a drag and drop, kind of move things around. And I want to make sure we have everybody still. So someone please chat and say how you guys are still with me. I've been talking to myself for an hour and a half. No one said anything quite yet, so I want to make sure you guys can see. But I'm going to move over to fonts, because this is a really important thing to make sure that we can change the way that this looks, and how that kind of, how the fonts are designed in 7.1 as well. All right, so no questions. I'm going to, all right, thanks, Kimberly. All right, thanks, Stephanie. Glad to see that I'm not alone. It's really difficult with webinars, because you're just kind of talking at yourself for a really long time. So I appreciate some interaction from you guys. I'm going to go back to this. Sorry, I got the QA in front of my thing. What I need to do is click on this. See this little arrow back here? This will get me back into this design mode, the back end of the website. And I'm going to go over to the fonts section. Now the fonts are totally different again from 7.0 to 7.1. They've now made it so they have these like font families that are attached to all of your styles. So it's more of a, not just a one at a time anymore. It's now global changes throughout your fonts, which is kind of nice, because in 7.0 you had to individually change every header and every single paragraph and body tag. And they've given you more, quite honestly, in this. They've given you a little bit more choice. But the thing is that it's also made so that you can't kind of go hog wild. Whereas in 7.0, you could change every single header to be whatever font family you wanted, whatever color you wanted, whatever size you wanted. You could go crazy. So each of the headers was its own thing. Squarespace is trying to do a favor for all of you out there goes, I'm not a designer. Well, they were trying to make it so your site doesn't look bad by giving you a font family that's attached to all of these, so that you can't really have multiple fonts and multiple, things going on, so it looks really bad. They're really kind of making it kind of, I guess I should say, idiot proof by making sure that you can't go nuts with your fonts, because having 10,000 different fonts can make the website look terrible. So this is kind of a new improvement for them to do, is global changes across the board. One of the things they've done is they've given sans serif fonts that are all grouped together. They've given serif fonts, which are fonts that have the tips on the ends of each of the letters that look a little bit more classic. Sans serif fonts are a little bit more modern. And they've also made these mixed so that you can start clicking around and it will overwrite the system with these kind of font family kind of default things, which you can also overwrite, and I'll show you in a minute. But what we're going to look right now is going to find something that kind of fits what we want. And I'm looking at this font up here saying, do I want to match that? So this is, again, just design choices. You can do the mixed, or you can go back to just serifs, and then the whole thing will just be serifs. Or because this is a kind of a serifed font up here, so I might want to pick something that works well with that kind of same W and that kind of stuff. The other thing you can do is the base size. You can start increasing things. That's a global change across the board. 16 point is the default for basically ADA compliance. So you want to have everything at least 16 point or above. But Squarespace is pretty flexible. And so one of the things it does do is if you have a keyboard and you're trying to change the fonts, you can zoom in and stuff. So it's pretty friendly for that as well. But by default, Squarespace and WordPress and Wix and anybody other program is not going to be compliant right out of the bat. You have to do a lot of different things to become ADA compliant. So just note that there's like a 32 different point process to make sure that your site's Americans with Disability Act compliant. And this is actually kind of new in the last couple of years. Just be aware of it, because any site now can be sued at any time if your site's not compliant for these laws. And if you're doing a national change or really big and you have a lot of traffic and you actually have a moral and kind of ethical responsibility to make sure that your site is going to be made for everyone. We want inclusive experiences, so they're not actually making it, you're not kind of excluding people that have, let's say, aging eyes. There's a lot of boomers out there. So we want to keep our fonts and our colors and our compliancy in check throughout this whole thing, because it really does make a better experience for people when they're surfing the website itself and kind of thing. So one of the things we can do with these fonts, and now you can see that I've chosen these, is you can hit this cogwheel and you can go in and you can start customizing them a bit more. So in here is a ton of different things for us to, you can change the font family, and you can change the weight, which is how thick things are. And you can start changing the line height, the space, the letting spacing between the lines, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of different drag and drops. This is similar to 7.0 where you have the stylings, and it's just all drag and drop, which is really, really cool. It's kind of like you see it, what you see is what you get. And the default sizes for heading 1, 2, 3, and 4 get bigger, a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller. And so you kind of want to just play around with these, but make sure you keep them in that order so that they are always in this kind of default sizes. Now, they don't have to be massive, but they should stay somewhat large, because this is going to be, your H1 tags. Now, I like it better having it on one line, so therefore I'm playing around with how this looks. You can also change the text format to all uppercase, which might look nice because the branding is like that. You can also do all lowercase, or just initial caps, which is the first letter of each one. I'm going to go with all uppercase because I really like the way that looks. But this is also going to be for every single header throughout the website, so it might be too much to have that all capped throughout the whole thing. I'm going to bring this down just a little bit still. They do default quite large these days to all the templates that I've worked with. And I'm going to hit save so you can see how that works. And now these are global changes. So every time we change the fonts, it's across the entire board. And you can go back and tweak these at any point at any time, but it is something that, you know, as you're designing, you want to kind of lock down your look and feel first and foremost, and then work forward. You should have your branding done, and you can upload Adobe typekits into this. You can do Google Fonts, but one of the things you want to do is kind of keep your branding and kind of consistent across all these channels. Again, with the paragraph tags, which is more of the body tags, is we can get in here and start changing the font and start playing around with what we want. If I hit browse all fonts, this launches ton of the Adobe fonts and the Google fonts that are installed into the back end of Squarespace. Again, you want to be careful with how many fonts you put in, because you can start overriding all of these, but you want to keep it down to maybe 2 or 3 tops. Also the load time. If you have 10 different fonts on a website and you're not putting in special code to load them beforehand, your site is going to have a little bit of load time if you're going to have a bunch of fonts loading. And so one of the things that happens with lots of different font tags, this thing is going to drive me nuts, is that stop. I get it. We're editing global change. So one of the things that happens is if you have a lot of fonts and you're reading an article on the internet and you start reading and all of a sudden it shifts, it's because the fonts have loaded, if things have loaded on the website. So the less fonts you have, if you continue to use the same font or you keep the font family the same throughout the thing, the faster it will load, the better it will look. So I'm just going to try to choose a sans serif font for the body tags, and you can see it will change over here. They call it paragraph tags, so it's basically about the body tags. So I'm going to hit save. I have a question from Kimberly who says, is there a minimum font size that keeps the site compliant? You can use a particular font type as an example if you want, as I know font size just changed with type. Yes, so it's 16 point is kind of the default for what compliance you would like to have. Again, as long as your site can be zoomed in on and is kind of flexible in that way that it's dynamic, that should help all of the e-readers and everybody else who needs to change the size. We can get ADA compliance is a whole other conversation about making sure your site's compliant by having the back end keyboard accessible, which normally Squarespace sites aren't by default. So there's a lot of different things to become compliant. There's other free tools out there that you can install, but that's a whole other separate webinar. But it is something to think about. But again, keeping the fonts at a minimum of 16 points is going to be really important. So I'm going to default that to 16 point, and then you can see you can change the weight, and you can change the styles and the line heights. The line heights is about, again, how much space in between. So you can see this is going to make it tighter or more spread out. So it all depends on your thing, how do you want it to look. Again, you can change the paragraph sizes to be smaller or bigger, and it will show you them change throughout has a dynamic kind of preview. Let me hit save. Sometimes Squarespace will take a minute to do the saving because it is directly on the servers, and what you get is what you get. You know, kind of like as you save, it's live. Is there a webinar on ADA? No, there is not from AV Tech, but you know, give me a call if you want to talk about ADA compliancy. Again, there's a website for ADA compliancy stuff. I have a ton of links that I can share with people as well. But it is something that's a hot topic. Again, I really focus on it for my branding to make sure your logo is compliant and all the text in your taglines are compliant, because you want to make sure when you put it online that people can read it and it's going to be compliant as well. But there's a lot to it. I just want to give out the basics that you should be aware of. That is something as you're designing a Squarespace website, but it is very technical and very complex. So it is a bit of a lot of extra work to do. But it is something that can legally protect you. You do want to have an accessibility statement on your website in the footer as well, which will tell people saying, hey, I'm trying, and if you see anything wrong with this website, please reach out to the company. We'll try to make sure we make it right. But I definitely wanted to focus on the design part of it today, because a lot of the small businesses that are on the webinar today are probably designing their first Squarespace website, or maybe you're moving over from 7.0 to 7.1, but the gist of this is that I want to make sure that we get all the design elements down, that you can see where the SEO is and how to launch the site too. So we have a couple more things. I want to check my checklist real quick, make sure I don't forget anything really important. So we should definitely put in the animation across the globe, and then contact page. Yeah, I got to do a contact page. That's really important as well, to show you guys how to connect that as well. getting good. We're getting good. We're gonna make sure we talk about contact form. So I gotta make this contact page happen. One of the things I also want to do is go into site spacing so you can see what this means. So we can start playing around with the margins, and this is going to literally just move the site kind of design around and the site width. So I'm going to show you kind of a preview of that as it changes. That one's actually not changing too much. You can see the site margin is going to play around with how much padding is this. And this is a global change. I can say cancel. Again, hit discard or cancel anytime you don't want to keep anything, and it'll just revert to where it was. There's also these buttons, the undo and redo buttons at the top when you get into something. Speaking of buttons, I'm going to go into buttons. These are global changes for all of the buttons up in here. You see this kind of stuff. So I like to have them solid. Outline just means it's like an outline. You see that it's changed to outline. Solid, I think, stands out better just to have a bigger block of color. But again, it's a design preference. I like to have rounded corners. I think it has a little nicer touch. You can also do pill-shaped, but that's just preference. So I like the rounded, so that's just a design preference. And also you can put padding around your button, so whatever you feel is appropriate for the design, I like that. So I hit save, and that's going to be kind of a global change on all of the buttons. And the animations now, this is new for 7.1. Again, it's kind of like global animation, so all of your pages will have these animations. So if you do fade, it will fade everything as you scroll and move around. Scale is going to scale things up. Slide things in, and clip goes sideways. So it's kind of like this kind of global thing. I kind of like the fade as you kind of move around. It's kind of nice. So I might leave that across as a global change now. In 7.0, you would have to do this individually for every single thing. You would have to animate every single block and every single thing. So this is kind of a nice new global change for animation. All right, so man is asking, why is ADA compliance such an issue with control plus control minus? We'll zoom in and just, it's because there's so much more than just the font sizes for ADA compliancy. It has to do with contrast. It has to do with closed captioning on your videos. It has to do with making sure all your images have alt tags. It's for basically people who have visual and hearing impairments. So anything that could possibly come up on your website that affects those people, it's not just fonts. In fact, blind people can't see your font sizes, so it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with making sure it's keyboard accessible, because they can't even see a mouse. So mouses doesn't mean anything to anybody. They cannot see your pointer. So they have to use special e-reader software, and that is going to be reading your screens, and that's why it's so important to have your H1 tags in order. So ADA compliancy is a boatload of stuff that makes something compliant, and it just means that you're being designing for basically the masses as well, because 20% of the entire United States has some type of handicap in some way, either it's a visual or physical or temporary, like they've hurt their arm or they can't mouse, or they have, you know, their English is their second language. There's a lot of different things where you want to take into account that 20% of people have a harder time using the internet. So as we design for inclusive things, you want to just take that into account. This is, again, it's kind of a newer topic in the last few years. A lot of sites are becoming compliant now, and there's a lot of different ways to become compliant, but it is something that I'm really passionate about. And it's something that I like to teach people, because a lot of people haven't even heard of this before. And so it is something, as you're designing your Squarespace website, to do some more research, and to, again, reach out to me anytime, and we can talk about how to make sure that you're compliant, or as much as possible as compliant, because it's actually impossible, 100% impossible to be compliant all the time, because there's things like PDFs that are uploaded, and if you didn't make the PDF compliant, that's not going to help you. Or if you have third-party software embedded, so something like having a calendar or something that's a third-party software like MailChimp, if that's from a third party and that's not compliant, you're not really responsible for third-party stuff, but it just shows you that the site itself might not be 100% compliant at all times. So you're trying to be as compliant as possible, let's put it that way. But there's a million little things to remember to do, and there's a bunch of checklists on the internet if you look up, you know, how to be compliant. Anyway, so getting back to 7.01 templates, I want to make sure we finish the design elements as well. But if I hit save, this is going to be a global animation across the site as we do stuff, which is really cool. Also, you can make it slow, which means it's going to do it slowly, or kind of standard medium, and then also really fast. So I kind of like the medium. That seems like a nice little fade, so I'm going to keep it on that. And you can get into the products. If you have a store, you can design all the way those look. The image blocks, you can kind of stylize and animate those. Each of these can be a different thing. And again, the colors and the fonts are really important to make sure that you start playing around with things. Again, the color of the font is defined by your themes as well. So we could go and tweak those. If you didn't want black, we can go back and add, let's say, some of that other colors into our stuff. So if I wanted to change this About Wilderkin color, I would have to go back into the colors, and then I would need to make sure that whatever theme this thing is, which if I hit edit and I hover over it, it'll tell me which theme this is. Come on, show me. It starts showing the themes. There they go. So this is light minimal. And if I edit that, this will pick up all of those head tags within that theme. So if I wanted to have this particular H1 tag a different color, I can go back and I can grab my hex color for the blue, which I know works on large, bold fonts because I've already checked it for compliancy. I can go back in here and I can put in that, or I can just actually choose it. It's already been chosen, so there you go. So therefore, automatically it's going to start changing. And this is again a global change to that theme. So any place that this theme has been attached will automatically open that up. So this is it's a really great kind of nice way so that you can customize down to all of these things. So if I wanted to change this, I guess this might be the medium. I'm not sure if this is medium or medium. It is medium. So I could change the color and I customize this color. And as I choose this picker, let's scroll down here so we can choose it. I wanted to show you this as well because you can just drag and move things around and choose a color, and you can see it changing over here in live time, which is really nice. I might want to choose like a darker gray for my text to have a little bit different. I personally know that just off the top of my head, being designed at 66666, the devil makes a really nice dark gray that is going to be compliant as well. So this dark gray is now translated over there, and I happen to know it's already AD compliant. So I can see that this looks like, well, it starts looking very nice, you know, and that kind of thing. So what I'm going to do is hit save. And I really want to work on the footer too in the contact us page, and we only have 20 minutes left. So I'm going to get out of these section themes, but it is important to show you how that's how the design themes work. I want to get down to the footer. Footers come as a default, and you can edit the footer, and you can actually delete the footer and put in a whole different footer if you want, which is kind of cool. They come in with 3 different columns or 2 different columns. Again, you can play around with these. You can delete things that you don't want in here. You can type in your text. You can play with these. You can add whatever you want in here. So the footers can also be chosen, which is kind of neat. I love this functionality because footers are always kind of a tough one when you start a normal Squarespace 7.0 site. These footers are kind of already ready to go. So I like, also you can see they put the MailChimp one in, which is cool. I like this 3-column middle one here, which is kind of neat. And let's see if I can put that in here. Let's see if I can choose it. There we go. Now it's got 2. I'm going to show you, I'm going to just click on this. I'm going to delete this because I accidentally added 2. And I can show you, I can move it up and down. See these arrows here? Now that I have 2 sections, I can start playing with what order these sections are in here in the footer. And I can also delete this because I want this. And then I want to change the colors. I can choose something like this for the footer. There we go. How easy was that? Pretty cool. I'm going to hit save. And there's my kind of new footer. It looks really cool. It kind of goes with the website. And as you can see, the animations are starting to work. So if I click on gallery, everything's going to like animate in. And also the color back here is white, so I might want to change that. So I'm going to change the background color on this gallery by hitting that colors functionality. Add that, and instantly it changes the colors that are associated with the back end of that section. Just hit that save button. That will make everything look really good. And we're starting to have, you know, we have the about page, we have gallery, we have our social media that we put in, we have this contact page. Now the contact page, I definitely want to show you because you want to make sure that as you put this in, you have it's connected to your email or to the Google Drive or somewhere else. So again, these default templates are great. The spacers are great, so you can, I want to show you how to use these. You can start playing around with them, and they actually just add padding. Again, you can make them taller or wider. And you can also put them on the outside of things. Like if I wanted to stick it over here, it would push things in. I can play with the design as I need to. I can also add another pattern. This is a trick. If you add multiple spacers, you can start padding things if you wanted to. Again, you should probably be overriding this in the section header, so that will do that for you, but I just wanted to show you how you can use padding as well. Some of the classic things to add are horizontal rule, text box. I might want to just say cut and paste this up here. So you can see this is an H2 tag to change the header tags. I know that I want this to be the H1 because it needs to be the very first thing on the page. And I can say that, oh, that looks pretty good. I like the way this looks. I got some space up in here. So this gets a little bit used, you getting used to Squarespace content blocks. You just kind of have to play around, get used to it. I've been doing this for like 15 years, so I'm really used to these content blocks. So it looks really easy, but you might get really frustrated. Again, if you've done something to screw up your page, just go up here and hit discard changes. It will blow everything you did away if you have messed it all completely up. But it's kind of cool to be able to see that how easy it is to change. One of the things I'm also going to do is change the colors on this from the default white. I like my little color thing I've done here, so I like that. I'm going to hit save just to save all my work. And I want to make sure you guys understand that when you have this, the forms that are defaulted, you can change these forms, but you definitely want to make sure you edit them. That's why they have this kind of this red warning box. It's because it needs to have some place where it goes to. And if you haven't hooked that up, it's going to default to whoever's email is on the website, but it's not really actually set up yet. So you want to make sure that you hit the storage thing and you put in the email address, right? So what I would want to do is go get the email address for the company. That reminds me, I want to do a testimonial. Oops, email. So email address, I'm just copying and pasting this into the website now so you can see this. And I'm going to connect this so that it actually will send this form now from the contact page to this email. This is crucial to make sure you do that as you're kind of building out the site. You can also send it to MailChimp and other. Zapier connects to all kinds of different APIs through all different types of other accounts. And also you can send it to the Google Drive. And I recommend doing perhaps both if these forms are really important, so that you can have like an internal Google Drive doc that all the forms go to, and so that people in the company can all get to that information as the forms come in. You can ask different questions and that stuff. It's part of your onboarding process that you should have worked out about how you're onboarding clients into the company. So Google Drive can be connected to, you just need to set up a spreadsheet on the Google Drive and then just tell them the name of the spreadsheet in here, and it's like instant and the information goes right over. It's very easy to do. The other thing is when you're building these forms, I like to change the name of this so that you know where that person's come in from. So there's a contact us page or form. That way that when this comes in from Squarespace, it will say something like Squarespace, contact us form, and you'll know exactly what form on the website, what contact page they've used with the website. And I recommend actually putting a contact form any place you want on the website that's underneath like the page. Just leave it right there. Don't make them go to the contact page. Just have a contact right there. It's very easy to add these forms in. So they're just a block. You can add these forms and you can customize them. It defaults with these kind of generic stuff. I actually tend to rearrange and play with these a lot. You can change the order of these if you want, and it will change the order that they display in here. So if I display this first, the subject line will be up here, that kind of thing. So usually I delete the subject line because it's just an extra field that they don't need. And you can see it makes it shorter and easier for them to fill out. One of the things you can also do is customize what it says. You can change the name of what it says here, so it will change what it says here. But you can also add a bunch of different things to these forms. So this is where thinking through as you onboard clients from your small business to contact you, sometimes it's really nice to have a drop-down question of like, what's your budget? Or what services are you interested in? Or what's your address? There's a lot of different things that you want to maybe capture before they contact you. This is a great way for you to explore all the different things you can add to a contact form and kind of customize it. And you can also do these for like questionnaires, and these forms can be customized in any different way to have just, different types of questions and checkboxes and that kind of stuff too. So if you wanted to add an address, it adds the address right into it, for example. And you can also make things required, so they have to fill it out. If you do that, it would give them that warning saying, nope, you got to fill that out, or you can keep it unchecked and that's not required. Most of the main ones are required. This is going to be something that they have to fill in. So just kind of keep that in mind, that you want to probably not keep some of these kind of important ones required, because otherwise you might miss something out, like a phone call. So phone number. So if you delete this field, it just automatically deletes it, and you can see this form is very customizable. In this advanced thing tab, you can actually put in a little bit of the formatting here. So if you want to play around with that. And also, this is the sub message here, which will say after they've hit submit, what is the message? So you can type in, you know, a little bit more like, you know, your custom information here. So you might have your phone number, or you might have something else that you have, like, thank you for submitting, whatever it is. And you can also have you can redirect them to a landing page, which I actually recommend, which is a thank you for your contact. You know, here's a thing you can do. Here's a video you can watch. You can actually build in a whole landing page for when they submit something, especially if you're doing something like a sign up box for like MailChimp. You can also redirect them to something else as well. So if I hit apply and I go up and hit save, that red warning box is now gone, and you can see that this is going to be my contact page, and it looks kind of like this. And I have it going to the client's email address, and it starts looking pretty good. What I want to do is also start customizing these and show you guys how to do the email links and the phone links before we wrap up at 5 o'clock. So I'm going to hit the edit button. Now we do have the email address that we've already copied. I want to make sure I have it in my copy and paste. I can just hit paste in there and you can see it come in. One of the things that I want to do is make this a hyperlink, because people a lot of times will click on it, or most importantly, you want to make sure that it's mobile tappable, so that when they're on their mobile site, that if they, with their phone, they tap on this, it will automatically launch an email to your company. So what I'm going to do is grab the actual email address, and I'm going to put this hyperlink on it. And you can put a mail to link if you know how to do mail to with a semicolon, or you can just do this and it will give you the example where you put in your email. You can even add a subject line like hello, and you can actually do some other stuff like you can actually CC or BCC perhaps somebody else in the company. So this is kind of a nice way to put on a little bit of a, you know, pre-made email to somebody, and you just hit save. And again, hit that apply button. This is really important to if you hit enter here and you forget to do that, or hit save, it won't take it. And you'll be like, where did the link go? So you gotta hit that apply button. So now this is actually going to be tappable on the phone, as well as clickable from a mouse click to launch an email, which is going to make it look really good. So if I do the preview, I also want to show you on the phone. I'm going to show you in a second, but what I want to do with the phone number is I'm going to go get the phone number for the company and stick this in here. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to link the phone number by hitting this cogwheel and choosing the phone. This is actually going to add a tel link to the thing. So you just put in your phone number, hit save, hit the apply, and it's added this tel link number, which is a hyperlinked for the phones. So now that's tappable by your cell phone as well. So I'm going to hit save. I'm going to show you what that looks like. So if I click on this, it's going to pop open an email. And it says, hello. And that's what we want to see happen. And also, if you click on the phone, it's going to try to FaceTime through my internet right now. So this is a very important step to make sure you put the hyperlinks on all your emails, hyperlinks on all your phone numbers. You can put your phone number up in here. You can hyperlink it right off that. You can tap right there. You can put your email right in there, that kind of stuff. It's important to have these call to actions throughout your website. You want to make sure that you're making it very plain and easy for them to get a hold of you, and you do business, and everything you do is going to be, you know, thought through and intuitive and so forth. So I wanted to make sure you see how that looks, and you would have to repeat some of these things. Obviously, this is just the templates information on here. But we're getting to that point where I want to make sure that we have time for questions. There's only 10 minutes left in the webinar. Okay, it looks like we have any questions at this time. I want to make sure that we have enough time for questions before. So Kimberly says, I'm not sure you even want to do this, but does Squarespace allow you to override a global feature? For example, can you apply a slide animation to a couple of pages while leaving the rest just as a fade? Just curious. Well, the new global animations are global, and I believe you can override individual things like an image within that setting. I don't think you can do it half and half though, where it's kind of like, I only want some pages to do that. It's kind of, you just turn that off. You would have to just hand turn on the animations that you want. The animation does give it this nice 2020 look, which is, you know, it kind of shifts and changes as it comes up. And this is a real great feature of the new 7.1 sites, is these global animations that look really, really, really nice when it loads. Everything has that shift or move or animation. And as you kind of scroll down, things do that. And it looks really, really nice. So I do like the global animations, but it depends on how you want things to design. And yes, you can overwrite them, but it's on an individual block basis. And so that's the one thing that you would have to kind of be aware of as you go through. But it is a nice uptick from 7.0 where you had to do this individually on everything all the time. So this does save you a lot of time and energy as well. Yeah, so she says, I think the global feature is awesome as well. Yeah, so they're really trying to make this a lot easier to change than every single setting was individually in the back end of 7.0. So the 7.1 sites, it's like these massively global edits that are a little bit more organized in a way that makes things look really good. And if you need, you know, beekeeping services in the actual area, this is a brand new company. My friend Chelsea would love to help you out with your beekeeping needs. And so, you know, that's actually a company that we're starting right now to help her get this going. And the next steps is I want to make sure I check my list to make sure I have everything that I wanted to go over. Again, if you have any questions at this time, let me know. We have just a few more minutes and I want to make sure we get everybody's questions answered today because there's a lot to go over. Again, I have a couple more things to show you. One is this color picker. If you type in color picker into Google, it will bring up this really cool tool. And this is a great way to play around with your branding and figure out this the hue, saturation, and lightness that Squarespace is asking for. So as you play around with this, there's this really neat new feature here in Google to choose colors. It'll also give you that 6-digit hex that I was talking about. It will also give you the RGB, for which is the red, green, blue, which is your monitor colors. It will also even give you the CMYK, which is the converted for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, which is the 4-color process that all images that go to print go to. Usually it's, that's a whole other conversation, make sure that you get things ready for print. But you can also grab this and put this into Squarespace, and that's they're using hue, saturation, and lightness. It's a totally different format now from how web development's been for a while. But this particular tool doesn't show you if it's ADA compliant, but it is a great way to find colors if you just want to, you know, look around and find colors and you don't have Photoshop, but you want the hex colors. This color picker is a really nice little tool, and then you can pop over to the content checker to see if that hex is going to be ADA compliant. So I'm going to choose, let's say, what do I want for this website? I might want to choose a kind of more vibrant blue, and then I can just show you how that works. So I can grab this, copy this in, and I can go start playing around with the back-end colors. The colors are, again, done by theme, so I can get into those different themes, and I can start playing around, and I can start adding colors to these in here by just adding and pasting in that, and it will change it to the color that I'm looking for, which is not red, it's supposed to be blue. Might have to use this. Here we go. That needs to be a percentage is the problem. And for some reason that's not, of course, not working as I give you as an example. But you get the idea. So this is where you can actually, I've seen this work in reverse. So if I do this and I take this color here, I bring over the color picker. I think this might work this way. So there it goes. It works backwards this way. So if you have something in Squarespace you want to do that way, I think the formatting is just a little off on this. It just needs to be pasted in correctly. Again, this is kind of a neat little tool to get the hex colors and to play around with it. So let's say if I want this purple, I can grab this hex color here and plop that back into the back end of Squarespace. Again, you need that little pound symbol for that to happen, and it will change it to that purple. And you can see that this would be only in that theme would that change that one headline. So there's a lot of control over these themes that you can now apply to these sections. You can, again, you can put all these different sections in and move them up and down. And it's kind of a nice new way of designing websites. So they've made some really, really cool new features, and showing you that the site, this is the one I had built before. This is the one we were working on today. They're a little bit different because I just been playing around with it and designing different things. Again, I could go back and show you a little bit about the navigation. So if I wanted to add the home page, the main navigation, I can just drag that back up. Since there's already a contact page, I don't need to drag it up into the main navigation. And we could also do any other type of page. So I could add another page in a couple more minutes. And I'm going to add a blog. That way I can show you guys what a blog looks like. And you can choose the format of the blog now, which is so cool. This is new as well as a new feature, which is really nice to have how the blog's actually going to look. There's a bunch of different templates here. I like this look. I think that's going to be really cool. And it automatically creates a blog. And you can see I put a 2 there, but I might want to call this something like news or journal. And here's the blogs, and each one of these is a blog entry, and they give you 4 default ones that you can overwrite and change, or you can just delete. But this is how it's going to look on the website once you add the blog information. And there's also a wonderful Squarespace app that you can download on your phone. And I've actually been sitting at a networking event, changing my website and adding things to my website because the app is so cool, and it's fantastic to log into your site. You can be sitting there, you can make a blog, take a picture, literally upload it and post a blog while you're sitting in a meeting. So I highly recommend checking that out as well. But this is how you would edit a blog and create a blog. Is it starts off again with a template that you can then edit and get it in there, and it will be fairly straightforward, just like any of the web pages, to add images. I wanted to show you a quote block reel too for testimonials. We have some testimonials here. So I'm going to copy that and add it to this blog. It just adds just like a regular web page. Just note you don't need the quotes in front or at the end of your thing because this quote block already puts them in. And all you need to do for the source is just put in the source. You don't need the line or anything like that. So as I put that in, you just put the name. A tip is to actually do the more popular area for SEO. So you would put in the town that would make sense for you to be located in. So if you are a local company trying to get ranked for local things, pro tip, add in the location that you are trying to rank for into these testimonials. And then I can hit apply, and then we have this quote block, and we can start moving these blocks around again. You can start embedding them into things and that kind of stuff too. So that is how you can start playing around with the blogs, and you can start playing around with all the different features that the blogs have as well. So that's one way to do that. I just wanted to show you guys how to get a blog started. It's fairly quickly to do. Again, they have a really great app for that as well. So we have 1 minute left. Now's your time. If you have any questions, to please type it into the Q&A and let me know if there's any questions on the 7.1 Squarespace website development. I know there's a lot to it. There's a lot to go in. There's so much more to this. I can talk for hours about SEO and making sure your sites can be done right for the search engines. Speed is a huge one. Again, I can't emphasize this enough. Make sure that you are doing your images correctly, and I want to make sure that I'm going to try to make sure questions come in. Well, you're welcome, Kimberly. Thank you guys for joining us today. So this is going to be recorded, so if you do have any if you want to rewatch it or have any other questions, please reach out to me anytime. Again, we do free 1-hour consultations, and we will be glad to help you with your Squarespace, either 7.0 or 7.1 websites. We're doing this for a very long time, and there's a lot to it. The graphics itself is its own little tricky part that you probably need somebody who knows what they're doing with branding and logos. And there's actually a lot of custom code that we insert into our sites to make sure that you have a scalable vector graphic for your logo. You can also default to have 2 different logos, one for your mobile site, one for your regular site. There's a lot of different cool things you can do to make sure that your site is going to be even more snazzy and do well in the search engines. But I do want to make sure that everyone's questions are going to be answered. And if you have any follow-ups, just hit me up at heather@nefcreative.com, and we will talk to you guys then. So I'm going to wrap this up and let you know. See, this is our final site, and it looks really good. And I'm just to let you know, like, it has been really fun to do this today, and I hope that you guys learned a lot, and I hope that I wish you guys the best with all of your endeavors with your Squarespace website. So thanks so much. We will hopefully be in touch. Bye, guys.